Hello, my name is Chinmayi, author of the best-selling book Body Magic, which is based on a blissful ways of overcoming emotional eating. Regardless of whether that's your thing or not, I want to show you a really great recipe today. This is for sauerkraut. I first heard about sauerkraut when I was in India, and I always tend to get problems with my tummy, and someone said you need some probiotics. Well, trying to get probiotics in northern India is pretty difficult. So they suggested sauerkraut, and one of the friends there, he made it for us, and it was absolutely amazing, and I came back full of health. So I learned very quickly how to make it. It's really simple, so don't be frightened about quantities or getting a written recipe or anything like that. I'll show you how to do it very, very quickly and very, very easily today. So all you really need is a bowl like this. Some people use a crock pot, which for us is like an enamel pot with a lid. What you want to be able to do is to press the sauerkraut down, so get a couple of plates as well, so that you can see what size plate you need to put in there. Sometimes I make it straight into the jar, but I find, especially in winter, it's better to do it in a bowl like this because you can get more heat into it because it's spread out a lot. You can put it straight into the jar. We will be putting it into the jar eventually, but I'm going to get it going in this bowl here today. Okay, and obviously you need a cabbage. White cabbage, plain white cabbage is absolutely perfect. You also need a few tools if you want to make it really easy for yourself. A food processor is fantastic. So I've got this attachment here, which just grates the cabbage, as you can see. It's actually got a slicer on it as well, but I quite like my sauerkraut really fine, so I'm going to put that on there. And then the only cutting I need to do is getting it into small enough pieces to be able to go in here. So I'm going to use this to plunge it straight down into there. It will fill up really quickly, and I'll just tip it straight into the bowl, as you will see. So I'm just going to take one of the outside leaves off here because it's in pretty good condition, this cabbage. And I'm going to chop it up. You don't need to wash the cabbage, okay? You don't want to get water in there. It's going to make a lot of water. It's going to, when we mix it with the salt, which is the other ingredient that you'll need, you want sea salt if possible. This is sea salt crystals, which I've ground up in a coffee grinder. This blessed coffee grinder I use for so many things. All my seeds, I use it for dandelion coffee, all sorts. So it's a worthwhile investment. I think I've used this every day for the last 7 years. So I've got some sea salt here, which I'm going to mix in with the cabbage. So I'll just begin to chop it up. So that's the kind of size of piece that I need for this blender. So I'm just going to pop that in there and plunge it down. You can use the stalk, the thick bit of the cabbage as well, that's great. So it can get a bit messy, but that's fine. Just give yourself lots of space. So when the process is full, you just put it straight into the bowl. So we're going to put the salt on in layers. So I'm just going to throw that in there. Spread it out, obviously with clean hands, and just sprinkle the salt in here. Okay, that's fine, just layering it in. There's no hard and fast rules, really. You don't want too much salt. This is probably about 1 very heaped tablespoon, which will be fine for a fairly large white cabbage. I've yet to find any specific measurements for this. So I'm just going to continue now with the cabbage. that perfect size bowl. Okay, so I'm going to roll my sleeves up for this. This is where it gets good and messy. So what I want to do now is just rub the salt into the cabbage. So all I'm doing is just squeezing it in. And I can already feel the liquid starting to come out. That's it. It's already starting to have that sauerkraut smell. So what we want to do with this now is, once I've finished massaging the salt into the cabbage, is put it somewhere warm. So if you've got an airing cupboard or a place where you're heating, like a boiler, where your boiler is, somewhere like that. Not too hot, but somewhere warm, because that will help the process to work a lot quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a plate on top of the cabbage and really press it down. And this will encourage, as the water comes out, it's already starting to come out. I don't know if you can see that. It's already pouring out really nicely. This is going to be good sauerkraut. So I want to keep it pressed down and try and keep it underneath this water as it does its thing. And it might take about a week. That's probably about average. This time of year, maybe 10 days, 2 weeks. The secret really is as well to have clean hands, because that will keep your flora out of any bacteria that you've got on your hands away from the sauerkraut. Okay, so messy job, but fun. So I'm going to try this plate size, just go around the outside using the plate to get the cabbage off the side, because this will dry out. So you want to try and keep as much of it underneath as you can. It down a bit. I think I'm going to go for this way and press it down. Yeah. So as you can see, it's more or less already underneath the water, and it should stay weighted down by itself, and in a warm place it will bubble up as well. It'll seem to be actually making more and more water, and then it'll start to dry off, and that's when it's more or less ready usually. But if you can just keep an eye on it, maybe once a day, just to make sure that the cabbage is underneath the liquid, then it'll work really, really well. So I'll be keeping an eye on this for the next couple of days, and when it's ready to be put into jars, I'll come back to you and show you how we move on from there. In the meantime, you may like to get some jars ready. These were olive jars which have been washed well and they've been sterilised. And I sterilised them in the oven at 100 degrees centigrade, which is 200 degrees Fahrenheit, just for about 20 to 25 minutes, with the tops off like this. And then when I took them out, I was very careful not to put my fingers inside the jars at all, just to keep them nice and clean. Also, to help the process a little bit more, if they're not too ready, when I put the cabbage into here, I will continue to use a weight to push down onto the cabbage. And I've got a smaller jar here, which goes inside, just inside the jar like so. And we've filled that with stones. So that will be a weight for the sauerkraut to keep it underneath the surface. If this was summertime and the sauerkraut making process was a lot quicker, I would put it straight now into the jar and push it down with this. But because it's winter and I want to get more heat into the bowl, then I'll do it that way round, and then I'll move it in a couple of days. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Hello again. So this has been sitting on the floor actually, because we have underfloor heating here, only for about 3 or 4 days, which isn't too bad in the winter, but of course it's had the warmth. If you haven't got somewhere warm to put it in the winter, it will take quite a bit longer. You'll know when it's done because you'll basically take the lid off and it will smell really sweet. And if you taste it, you'll find that it's actually quite sweet and not so salty anymore. Perfect. There's hardly any taste of salt at all. So I'm going to put that straight into the jar. If it was drying out and I didn't think it was ready, I would put it in the jar and then I would weight it down, as I showed you before with this, just to keep working the cabbage. But there's no need to do that now. This is perfect, absolutely perfect. So I'll loosen it up a bit. And then start to put it in. So you want a spoon that goes into the jar easily, otherwise you can end up making quite a mess. These jars have just been re-sterilised. I've got 2 here just in case we need them. It's better to have too many jars, obviously, in case because then you don't have to wait for them to sterilise and cool down. And you want to make sure that they're cool, again, because you'll lose some of the bacteria if they're still hot. So as I put this in, I'm going to press it down again, just to really keep as much of the air out of it as possible, because you don't really want it to dry out anymore. Just pushing it down the sides. So I've got to this point here, so I think I'm just going to move on to the other jar, because what I don't want is just a tiny bit in the bottom. So I'm going to put the rest in the other jar. It won't come to the top, but that's okay. That's alright. If I had a smaller jar, I would use that as well instead. What you want to try and do as well is try and avoid touching it, because when you touch it, you put your flora on it. That was okay when we were working the salt in with our fingers, but now that it's ready, we want to try and keep our own flora away from it. And there we go. Probiotics in a jar. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions or any comments, or just want to share your experiences of making sauerkraut, please do so below. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them as soon as possible. In the meantime, enjoy your sauerkraut. Try to have some every day at the beginning of a meal, or with some salad, or with a cooked meal. And it will really help to your digestive system and boost your immune system as well. I look forward to sharing more simple recipes with you very, very soon. Thank you very much. Namaste.